Greetings, programs. My name is Wretch, and I'd like to welcome you to Vampire the Masquerade Parliament of Knives. Once again, guys, we dive headfirst into the world of darkness with another interactive novel by Choice of Games. I played Night Road and Out for Blood and enjoyed them both very much. But one thing that Night Road, where you played as a kindred, kind of lacked, it touched it a little bit, were the politics of the vampires in the world of darkness. And this game, Parliament of Knives by Jeffrey Dean, apparently we're gonna be up to our armpits in politics. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about and how the story is going to kind of unfold. I've really been enjoying these when they come out. I didn't think I was going to, like the first time I played Night Road, but since then, whenever there's a VTM Choice of Games a title, I try and go for it. So let's go ahead and start with Chapter 1, Incursion. I extended a hand to the rabble in the spirit of friendship and tolerance. Such forward thinking always foments dissent, as I might have learned by studying the mistakes of my mentor in the glory days of London, before Mithras's return. Modern mortals have a saying for this: no good deed goes unpunished. From the journals of Arundel, Prince of Ottawa. There is blood beneath your fingernails, remnants of a nightly ritual that has somehow become routine. Your hunger stirs deep within, lured by the scent, but you cast it from your mind. There are more important matters afoot. The full moon cast its ruddy blessing on the blood hunt, spiriting your band of assassins through long cast shadows among the irregular peaks and valleys of an unattended construction site. You lance through the night, a deadly arrow seeking the heart of a vampire you'd heard much of but never knew. Robert Ward, defected from the high society of Ottawa's Camarilla elite to endure the filth among the clanless and anarchs. Long years of leisure befitting your rank have left your survival skills blunted, though the thrill of the hunt has brought old instincts once thought forgotten back to the surface, seething with untapped potential. You know this to be true. You can feel it in your bones. But one siren song calls above all others, driving you to distraction. There's blood beneath your fingernails. Your feeding before the hunt had been a hurried one, and you'd left your victim dazed as you dabbed your mouth. Sheriff Key impatiently ushering you to join his motley band of kindred and mortal mercenaries for the hunt. The smell of blood on your fingertips conjures images of the mortal shivering while you slaked your thirst, their wide doe eyes glassy and empty of concern. In the decades since your embrace, you've distanced yourself from the horror of your nightly existence, not the least of which was divorcing yourself entirely from the indelicate art of finding your own victims. Ooh. I feed from the veritable menagerie of mortal vessels employed by a powerful kindred, Alicia Ray of Clan Toreador. My manservant Gerard is responsible for catching and sedating my prey. My proximity to Prince Arundel and his seneschal, my sire Eden Horless, afford me only the finest meals, dining on drink and drug-addled mortal elite. Ooh. And we got a decision right off the bat here, guys. So how do we get our food? Now, I've heard that you can choose between 3 clans in this game. I don't know if that's accurate, but I've heard that you can choose between the Ventru, the Toreador, and the Nosferatu. Now, in all of the VTM games, I have played a Toreador and I have played a Ventru. I haven't played a Nosferatu yet. And I'm thinking that that is going to be what I'm going for, is a Nosferatu noble. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. But out of all of these, I figure him having a manservant would probably be the most accurate. So we're going to say that we have a manservant named Gerard, who's going to be responsible for catching and sedating the prey. In the years since you acquired him, Gerard has been an excellent and loyal retainer in all respects. He takes his duties seriously and has rarely disappointed you or left you hungry. Over the years, you managed to convince yourself that there was nothing inherently wrong or unnatural about the act of feeding on the blood of the living. But a small part of you, one that still remembers a time when your heart beat within your chest, cries out with every opportunity to remind you that you are damned. As with many other kindred, you've kept your original name and aspects of your mortal identity, whether as a subconscious effort to anchor your new existence in a bedrock of memorialized humanity or simply nostalgia. You can't say for sure. But it fits you, and it is yours alone. What name tethers this unlife to a life once lived? Gabrielle, Silas, Julia, Maxwell, Dawn. Silas, that's a Nosferatu name, if I've ever heard one. We're gonna go with that. You had a family name once, and though it is rarely used, a part of you still clings to its memory. Silas Moore, Silas Kuznetsov? That's definitely Russian, I think. Singh, Martin, Jones. Let's go for Moore. I mean, it's about politics, it's all about getting more anyway. Moonlight glints off shards of broken glass as you creep along the length of a slowly decaying brick wall. An extended arm of the construction crew's crane shielded your party in its brooding shadow. Sound of your footsteps is masked by the rushing water of the nearby hydroelectric dam restraining the waters of... I wish Kath were here. This seems to be like up in that area of Canada. Chaudière Falls. Sheriff Key's mortal mercenaries are arrayed like a shield around their masters in a wedge of jet black body armor and bristling semi-automatic rifles. They seem on edge tonight. Professional and competent as always, but there's something in their eyes that betrays uncertainty. Ooh. Ahead of you, Bashard raises a long, gnarled hand in warning, and you stop in your tracks. Like all kindred of Clan Nosferatu, Bashard's appearance is monstrous and inhuman. Even his facial features are twisted and misshapen. He turns and raises a finger to his lips, a massive, pus-filled boil stretching the skin impressively below the first knuckle. Part of you wonders if the old vampire misses the nightlife above ground, enjoyed by the majority of kindred not afflicted by the Nosferatu's curse. Those more familiar with him might laugh uncomfortably at your query. Bashard had been a sewer rat long before the embrace. "Ward's anarchs have set up a perimeter." He gestures at the shadowed carcass of a long-abandoned factory, not far ahead, and you catch a brief glimpse of movement. "We should cut around, over the rubble." Even his whispers grate and gurgle like the depths of a sewer. "They weren't supposed to know we were coming, Silas." Jordan pipes up from behind you, taking advantage of the moment to tie back wisps of messy red hair in an impromptu topknot. "She may not care much for me, but Corliss is your sire. She should have been more certain before sending us in. I'm getting a bad read on this one." Eden Corliss is acting seneschal of the city, second in command to Prince Arundel himself, and also your sire, the vampire who embraced you as a mortal and brought you into the hidden world of the kindred. Every vampire is reborn into a bloodline that some scholars and cultists believe to be a direct lineage leading back to a progenitor of the biblical age, Cain himself. Clans have formed around these bloodlines, each possessed of certain gifts. These abilities are passed on from sire to child, always marginally diluted the further their generation is removed from the clan's founder. You didn't choose the clan you were brought into, but you adapted well enough over the decades, mastering the abilities of your clan to the best of your ability. Corliss has seemed pleased with your progress, and when Corliss is pleased, you slumber more soundly. The effects of these disciplines may now be read on your stats page. If you are unfamiliar with Vampire the Masquerade, you may want to examine them before making your choice below. Yes, indeed, look at this. Clan Ventru, Clan Toreador, Clan Nosferatu. A powerful monster, able to pass through the shadows without a trace. My pet rat can act as a spy. I have a pet rat? And a manservant? Let's do this. We're gonna get all of our best friends in. So we have Animalism, Obfuscate, and Potence. Sewer rat, the other clans call you derisively when your back is turned. but you find it difficult to hold their disgust against them. As a Nosferatu, the gift of Corliss's embrace was a piercing firebrand of agony as your body twisted into a distorted mockery of humanity. You no longer remember what your face looks like. You've long since set aside any notions of vanity, but you often catch a glimpse in the quickly masked reactions from kindred of the effete aristocracy. Unable to hide the reality of your monstrous deformities, you are largely condemned to exist beneath the city, in a maze of tunnels and sewers with the rest of your kin. One of your deformities stands out above the others as a defining grotesquerie. My nose bulges from my face with an almost animal-like ridge and flared nostrils. I'm completely bald and my head is covered with weeping lesions. My fingers are gnarled and twisted. I've learned to use them without a handicap, but if mortals see them, they are immediately repulsed. Neat. We'll go with that. Despite your deformity, there's a redeeming factor to the Nosferatu curse. Your highly attuned affinity for animals has attracted a most ferocious and loyal companion, confidant, and spy, your pet rat. You never anticipated developing a bond with such a creature, but it heard your call. And unlike so many others, the rat decided to stay of its own free will, becoming your only companion as loyal as your personal servant, Gerard. In an effort to humanize the small creature, you gave it a name. What should we call our rat friend, guys? What do y'all think? I don't want to call him just Bob. I know we normally call anything, any of our friends Bob, but we need something. Good. Let's try. Robert. Let me think here. Oh. Blek. All right. So, Blek is a French graffiti artist and one of the first graffiti artists in Paris and has been described as the father of stencil graffiti. I'm okay with that. It's essentially Blake, I believe. So let's go with that. It's also like black, which a lot of people would say when they see a rat for the first time. As you spent more time training Blek to be your eyes and ears, you decided that you no longer wanted to refer to them as an it, but based on its gender instead. Blek is a boy, Blek is a girl. I want to write my own pronouns. Blek probably won't mind. Blek's definitely a boy. The underground home you share with Blek and your mortal retainer Gerard is surprisingly lavish given that it's so close to an active branch of the sewer system. You made accommodations for Blake as well, the decor tastefully appointed to match his fur color. Gray. Silas? Jordan asks, watching you quizzically. Sheriff Key is paused behind Bichard to watch you in obvious impatience. Jordan was right, of course. Your sire surely did her homework before sending you out here. She's put too much work into you to send you into a trap unawares. That can only mean something has changed, and the Anarchs are on the move. Perhaps making some sort of power play. It's up to your band to stop them before they can threaten your prince's domain during his absence. I was thinking, Jordan says, don't you think it's a bit strange that more than half of our strike team are Nosferatu? If I didn't know any better, I'd say Corliss thinks you're all expendable. No, Corliss is one of us. She chose us because she knows she can trust us. You shake your head and try to focus on the matters at hand. We might not be able to take them head on if they're guarding the entrance, you whisper, index finger tracing the curved trigger of your Desert Eagle, a gift from Corliss that you've only recently reacquainted yourself with. The gun feels alien in your grip, but you're certain that your training will kick in if it comes to that. Our briefing said that Ward's quarters are in the back end of the factory. Maybe we could cut around. He motions for the rest of you to shrink as far back into the shadows as possible while a path forward is deliberated. He sets down a heavy gasoline can, and you can hear the liquid inside sloshing back and forth, yearning to be set alight. Long black hair frames the eagerness on his face. He would be considered a good-looking as Nosferatu go, but even then there's something unsettling about him by mortal standards. Something impossible to place a finger on. I'm not sure if I agree with your sentiments, Silas, he says. There are a dozen of us plus our mercenaries, and they should be less than 6 of them even in the worst-case scenario, sentries or no. He says, lips pursed thinly in thought. But you're right that we might be better served taking an alternate route. Destroying Ward will be significantly more difficult without the element of surprise. You haven't met him before. Trust me when I say that. Like most of the rabble, he's not to be trifled with. And don't forget the most important thing. Once he's incapacitated, we'll need to let fire do the rest. That way there's no coming back. Once the sheriff has finished speaking, one of your party pushes forward from behind to address you. It's Luca, moonlight glinting off inquisitive eyes narrowed with worry. The elder child of Corliss, she's recently returned from overseas where she managed your mutual sire's business interests. Despite barely knowing each other, she's taken to you with what seems like genuine enthusiasm, greeting you as a long-absent sibling. The Nosferatu curse had treated her more harshly than most, manifesting itself in a mostly bald, lumpy skull the color of day-old oatmeal. From what you gather, she's a brilliant strategist, but most of her control over Corliss's businesses had to be remote, where Luca could hide her face from the managers and money she manipulated with practiced ease. I've run the numbers, she says in a barely audible whisper. The intelligence reports show that there shouldn't have been more than 6 anarchs in the city at the moment. All the others we've been tracking have shown their faces around Montreal within the last few nights. They could have made their way here by now, at least in theory, but my eyes and ears in Quebec are certain they haven't left. Well, that settles it then, Keith says decisively. No retreat. We're doing this. Silas. He grabs your full attention. Nests of anarchs infiltrating our prince's domain without his knowledge or blessing are a cancer that the Camarilla has seen again and again, and it's only gotten worse since so many of the Bruja and Gangrel clans defected to join them. We leave them here to fester. They're a masquerade breach waiting to happen. The Masquerade. The one set of rules almost all civilized kindred can agree upon. Mortals can never be allowed to learn about the supernatural reality that encircles them. Hey, Link. Nothing is more important to a vampire in modern nights. Of course, such widespread deception is impossible to maintain constantly, and the occasional breach has led to the rise of professional vampire hunters and secretive government agencies allied into a second Inquisition, the greatest threat to your kind in centuries. The sheriff gestures toward the building beyond. We're here to take out their leader. Widening our scope to include the other agitators lessens our chances of decapitating the beast. Corliss told me that your input is to be trusted. Silas, so now's your time to show us what you're made of. What's your read on the situation? Ooh. I don't want to start using disciplines yet. We need to keep cool heads and remember our mission. We'll circle around the factory, but we'll do it quickly, before Ward has a chance to escape. Corliss insisted that I respect your input, but are you certain this is the best course of action? Key asks you and Luca. As sheriff, I have several mandates from the prince, including punishing those who flout the tradition of hospitality. These kindred have not only abandoned the Camarilla, but they've infringed on our own domain unannounced. The penalty for such a violation is violent death. Corliss ordered a blood hunt on Robert Ward, you say. If we get caught up fighting his fodder, he could escape and all this would be for nothing. It's a fair point, Chard rasps. Let's do what we came to do and be done with it. There should be a job for the mercenaries, and I'm growing wary of running about in all this moonlight. Bad for the skin. He groans, but you can still see the indecision in his eyes. Normally I'd override this decision, he growls. But you're correct, Silas. The Seneschal's orders were clear. We'll avoid the front entrance and concentrate on getting to Ward as quickly as possible. We can't allow him a chance to escape. The Chard creeps forward, disappearing from view as he scouts ahead. Two of the most agile mercenaries ghosting by at his side with their rifles held at the ready to defend their master. You lead the hunt through crags of concrete and half-demolished walls toward the back of the factory, nearly tripping over several bits of loose scree and pieces of crumbling mortar in your haste to catch Ward before he has a chance to flee. Sentries means he's skittish and ready for anything. The crashing sound of water from the nearby river is almost deafening on the east side of the decaying building. You note the high water level. It's almost too much for the dam to handle. No wonder the city had the bridge closed off for so long. But this works to your advantage. Without warning, the Chard materializes and pulls you low to the ground to whisper in your ear. The Nosferatu's open mouth smells like rancid meat. There are no guards posted back here on the ground, but there are windows. He points upward to indicate 5 gaping holes in the building's wall, only one of which will desperately clings to a few jagged shards of glass. The factory is only 1 floor, but a catwalk rings the place. I saw one of them take a look down before moving on to the front. So how can we get in without being spotted? You ask. There's a rusted set of double doors right in the center over there, Chard says, gesturing at the rear wall. I gave it a tug. It shifted, but we shouldn't open it while there are patrols above. Might make too much noise. There's some good news, though. Part of the wall is crumbled enough for proper handholds. We could send someone up there and take out the Watcher while the rest of us work on the door. Let's see. Do here. I have a feeling I'm going to have to be drinking a lot between these for all these voices. Let's go ahead and maybe send Key out here to do this. Incredible strength is unmatched. Anyone can climb that wall by hand and take out the sentry in a matter of minutes. He can. The Chard gurgles with what only can be described as a demented giggle. Key, we might as well just nuke them from orbit. Might be subtler. He covers his mouth to stifle a second cackle. What the esteemed Primogen meant to say, he growls, his face drawn with a deep frown, is that I'm more accustomed to muscle work than sneaking around, despite appearances. It's not a bad idea, though, Jordan says to Key quietly. Whoever climbs the wall will need to take out the guard before they can raise the alarm. I'd take you over Bechard any day for that kind of violence. Bechard stops laughing and scowls at the 3 of you. Maybe you're right, Key says, giving you a pointed look. Wise choice. Give me a 5-minute head start and then get everyone through the door as quickly as possible. Jordan twitches with worry as you wait for Key to take down the sentry. Did Corliss ever tell you why she sent us on the hunt? Surely Key had better options than us for an operation like this. You shake your head. She just said I was growing too complacent, that I need to get my hands dirty again or I'd forget my nature. Huh, Jordan whispers. Maybe she's right. The whole thing strikes me as odd. It's time, Bechard says. He should have taken that sentry down by now. He grips the rusty back door to the factory in pallid hands, his long talon-like nails digging through the opening to slowly force it open. He looks back at you and whispers, Ward's office should be close to here, near the back of the building. Be on your guard and don't give him a chance to run. Ever so reluctantly, the door cedes to his demands. and one by one your party files into the darkness beyond. You slink along the crumbling factory wall, sharp shards of brick digging into your shoulders as you move. Not far from your position, a dim light marks the location of Robert Ward's office in the exact position your intelligence report suggested it would be. Closer scrutiny reveals an outline well described by Corliss, a bulky behemoth that could only be the quarry you seek. Bichard gestures toward the silhouette and you nod, increasing your pace as you grow ever nearer to your target. "Wait," Chard whispers, holding a hand up to stop you in his tracks. "Something's..." A sharp electrical cackle is the only warning you get before dozens of floodlights blaze to life, immediately following by an ear-splitting clatter of gunfire as men and women swathed entirely in black emerge from hiding on the catwalk above. Below, two feral-looking kindred advance, their fingernails unnaturally lengthened in deadly claws. "It's a trap!" Jordan exclaims. "We have to get out of here!" You stiffen, the reality of your situation crashing down on you. And suddenly all you can smell is gunpowder and copper. Years of privileged unlife as one of the Camarilla elite have atrophied your primal instincts. And while you are forced to be reckoned with in one-on-one fights, you haven't the first idea how to contend with an ambush of this magnitude. "There," Lucas says, pointing at an old stairwell in the nearby wall where you can take shelter and plan a counterattack. "Let's move." A bullet slams into her shoulder, throwing her back several feet before she manages to shrug it off and stumble back toward the group. "Let's go!" So this is kind of where we decide whether we've got the fortitude, whether we have fortitude, potent, or not fortitude necessarily, but our strength, our dex, and our stamina, respectively. So I would like to think, I've always believed that stamina and fortitude are very needed, no matter what you're doing in the world of darkness. So, however, we do have potence, so we could be super strong if we wanted to. Let's go ahead and do this. I like the I'm nimble enough, though. I'm nimble enough to climb up to that catwalk while the others distract the snipers long enough for me to come up from behind. Being a Nosferatu, yeah, you gotta kind of play things like a rogue, I would think. Diverging from the others, you run towards the catwalk, avoiding the areas most lit by the ambushers' floodlights. Luckily, sentries focus almost entirely on the larger group, and the thunder of gunfire masks any sound you make while running. You leap up against the wall, kicking off and grabbing a hold of the catwalk. Before you can pull yourself up, the old metal wrenches downward under your sudden weight, alerting a nearby shooter. He walks above you, steel-toed boots crunching down on your fingertips as you hang helplessly. "It's end times for you, freak," the man says grimly as his finger tenses on the trigger. You blink. Freak? Does he not realize who he's working for? You bring your feet up against the wall, pushing your dangling body out of the way as the mortal narrowly misses you with his first shot, surprised by your sudden speed and inhuman agility. You reach upward and grab his leg, using your leverage against the wall to tear him from his perch, sending him tumbling to the floor head first where he lands with a bone-crunching thud. You pull yourself up, only to find yet another sentry lying in wait, rifle trained on your position. "Better be okay, bloodsucker," the black-clad woman growls before opening fire, several shots tearing through your chest as you drag yourself forward along the guardrails like a demon possessed. Why won't you die?" she gasps, confidence shaken, eyes wild with fear. She turns to run, and you have little choice but to let her go as your body mends and you slowly get to your feet. It seems like forever since you've been in peril of meeting final death, and you can feel your inner beast threatening to assert control. You calm yourself the way Corliss taught you so many years ago, and in a few seconds that seem to span an age, you're your own creature again. You peer down through the metal slats of the catwalk and fix your gaze on a shooter directly below, still firing on the remaining members of the hunting party, some of whom are still bunkered in the old stairwell. Baring your fangs, you grip the guardrail tightly and leap over the edge, swinging down. You collide with the men, knocking them to the floor in a heap, unconscious. You turn to check on your companions, relieved to find them safe and emerging from the shelter of the stairwell. You shift your gaze over to a small office room tucked away in the corner. Your briefing suggested that Ward would be staying inside, but there's no sign of him. As your haze of bloodlust wears off, you nearly trip over the bulky leg of a dead mortal, and a memory from your past causes you to recoil. You used to be one of these creatures. Once, you had been drained of blood, dying in the dirt. But unlike these victims, you've been pulled back from the brink of oblivion, granted an eternity of power at the cost of damnation. A meaty hand closes around your neck and you're forcibly torn from your reverie as some unknown brute hoists you skyward, your feet dangling uselessly off the ground. You hear Key shouting distantly, followed by a clatter of running footfalls as the others close in on you. Shifting in the monstrous grip, you struggle to catch a glimpse of your attacker and lock eyes with one of the largest kindred you've ever seen. His craggy face and massive, bulk-fitting Corliss's description of Ward to a T, but his well-worn jean overalls smudged with black grease and red check shirt hardly evoke the sense of fear or respect you'd anticipated. With your heightened awareness, you can feel each individual muscle in his fingers contracting as he lifts you from the floor. Corliss's child, Ward grunts, eyes narrowing as he scrutinizes your face. You're being used, Silas. This isn't how it has to end. What do you mean being used? You're the one trying to strangle me. I have very little choice at the moment, he growls, eyes shifting to Bichard as the Nosferatu slinks toward him, fangs bared, making way for Luca and Jordan to aim their guns. They hesitate, only holding back their shots to avoid hitting you. Your mind has been tampered with, child. Question those in power around you and you'll learn the truth. We'll meet again. The muscles in his left hand tense around your neck as his right arm wraps around your torso with the speed of a viper. In your peripheral vision, you can see Key charging forward, seeming in slow motion as the world revolves around you in a sickening spiral. Hey, Jason. Ward heaves you backward with such force that the fragile brick wall explodes outward, sending you flying almost 100 feet into the open air in a graceless arc, your world tumbling around you. Time seems to slow as you descend, jagged pieces of rebar slashing at your neck and chest as you manage to twist aside just in time to avoid being impaled grotesquely on the leaning wall of a partially demolished building. You hit the ground, skidding and twisting through a field of heavy gravel and chunks of pulverized concrete, abrasions tearing at your open wounds. When you finally come to a stop, your vision swims, red-rimmed and dark in one eye. You blink for a moment, imagining you must be hallucinating. And then the spinning twin visions converge on each other, manifesting in the form of a cowering mortal couple. One of them has been struck in the head by a fist-sized chunk of brick. Blood oozes from the deep gash, and their companion, who had been holding a bit of cloth to their forehead in an attempt to staunch the flow, has dropped it in favor of shielding their partner. Stinging pains of desire overwhelm you. For a moment, all you see is a talking sack of meat and blood. Please, the mortal stutters. We need to get to a doctor. Stupid thing to say, if only because you doubtless look worse than they do. Your hands claw at the dust and gravel as you pull yourself forward, unable to vocalize your desperate need, your only true desire in this moment. Primal hunger overwhelms years of social programming and Camarilla directives. The loss of blood as your body mended itself has awakened the beast within. You must feed. As you grow closer, you lose focus again and the couple swims before your eyes, their faces changing into ghostly visions. As what remains of your humanity does battle with the beast threatening to consume you, it digs through long-hidden memories, slowly reeling you back from the brink of madness. The appearance of the uninjured mortal twists and morphs until you're staring into a mirrored set of eyes, a mirrored face. a mirrored soul from a time before it was indelibly stained by corruption. You would weep to see this earlier version of yourself, if you still had tears left to shed. This choice determines your gender and age. A middle-aged man gazes wistfully through me, longing for a different future. I like that one. Your eyes shift away from your mirror image to his companion. A sharp pang of anguish racks your body and mind. Long-forgotten memories of a partner you once cherished float before you, marred by the deep gash on their forehead. A bloody omen of an unforgivable betrayal that will never truly be forgotten, no matter how distant your own death draws you from your earlier life. I see a vision of a woman I once loved, smiling and foolhardy. Well, now you want to buy this game, Link? That's awesome. Go ahead and grab it, man. These games from Choice of Games, the interactive novels, they're great. Highly recommended. I see a vision of a woman I once loved, smiling and foolhardy. In this moment of pure animal desperation, all you can think of, all you want in the world is to brush your lips against hers and banish the eternal cold of undeath, even if only for a fraction of a second, to relive some of what had been lost, to heal your mind as well as your body. This unearthly desire proves too great to resist, and you draw forward, embracing your lover and pulling her close. She struggles at first, but eventually yields to your touch, a deep groan of pleasure on her lips. The feeling is euphoric. Hot tears stream down your cheeks and your chest constricts with gut-wrenching emotion as your embrace spans what feels like hours of pure bliss. And then there's pain. You're able to ignore it at first, but it returns with a vengeance as your lover is torn from your arms. A sad smile etched on her lips. No! The word rips its way out from the bottom of your black and shriveled lungs. Not again! Your eyes shift to the demon pulling your lover away, and you recognize yourself in its face once again. Not as you once were, but as you are now. Soul twisted and shriveled. A gaping maw with protruding fangs. You leap forward, ripping your doppelganger away from his prey before plunging your teeth into his neck. Not ever again! You groan against his flesh, crimson bubbles flowering at the edges of your mouth as you scream defiance even while you drain your personal demon dry. When at last he breathes no more, you fall back, triumphant exultation fading as your body finishes knitting itself together once again. Reality settles around you again. You feel a biting sting of dread as you turn to take in the true scene. The mutilated body of a young man lies sprawled on the ground, his neck torn open and hanging at an unnatural angle, expression locked in sheer terror and disbelief. He's tightly grasping the hand of a young woman he'd somehow held on even as you drained the life from his body. Unlike her partner, the young woman is yet to succumb to oblivion. Irregular breathing causes her chest to rise and fall, and her eyes drift listlessly until they alight on you, your lips and chin slathered in a mix of blood from both of your victims. She tries to scream, but finds herself unable to summon the necessary breath, and all that comes from her lips is the pitiful squeak of a prey animal. She's dying. She knows it. You know it. I don't want to die here, she rasps, her knuckles going white as she clutches her dead partner's hand. Your head is spinning as you sink to your knees before the woman, unable to banish the vision of your lover's face. Her expression of betrayal was not all dissimilar to the gaze of this young woman, soft eyes searching for answers and wondering why. How you could have done such a thing. Please, she whimpers. Okay. I'm going for the middle approach here. She deserves mercy. Killing her is the most humane thing I can do. You're not certain why you chose to take mercy on this mortal. The memories she evoked are painful, and part of your undead instinct dearly wishes for her to suffer for making you remember. But your mercy is merely pragmatism. If your victim somehow manages to survive against all odds, she could be a masquerade risk that would be traced back to you, and your sire would doubtlessly treat you with far less charity than you showed your own victim. You kneel beside her and bring your hand to her throat, your dead eyes causing her to shudder and look away. Her neck is a ruin of ruptured blood vessels and ragged skin. You can almost feel the throbbing of what little blood remains in those pulsating veins. But you hold yourself back from draining her dry. Your other hand joins the first in a chokehold, starving the dying body of oxygen. She sputters feebly, tries out to call for help, and goes limp. You release her neck with disgust. It's been decades since you've attacked kind for any reason other than the feed. Perhaps you've gone too soft. You need to thank Corliss for having the wisdom to send you on this mission. Your newly mended legs carry you over the stony grit with remarkable strength, your renewed sense of vigor immediately apparent as you tread uneven terrain. The crashing churn of the nearby dam might largely mask the sound of gunfire. You didn't know to listen, but sporadic bursts indicate that the battle was still in full swing. You round a large pile of dirt, approaching the building from the rear when you hear a guttural shout of warning from within. The factory abruptly explodes in a fiery conflagration, showering you with an avalanche of brick, wood, and concrete debris. You stand still for a moment, stunned and rooted to the spot before your bestial vampiric instincts overwhelm you, and you flee the fire heedless of other, more mundane concerns. Roshrek! It takes several minutes for you to wrest control back and turn yourself around. You grind your teeth as you force your feet to carry you back toward the demolished building. Your naturally strong aversion to flames screaming in the back of your mind. The air itself smells burnt, and your eyes sting from the clouds of disturbed dust. That maniac Ward must have rigged the place to blow. Shock wears off when you see that the flames have already burnt out. The majority of the building was built of metal and brick, and you try not to cringe as you wade into the wreckage, gun held at the ready. Someone in your group must have survived. They can't all be destroyed. Oh, this should be interesting. So, who should we go for, guys? We can find Luca. She's a sister of sorts, after all, the child of my own sire. Jordan is the closest person I have to a true ally in the city, and then we have the sheriff. I mean, there's definite advantages to all of these. But here's the thing. Out of all of these, I would say I don't really care about Luca. The reasoning why is if we're a brother and sister, we're competition. That's just kind of how it is. It's very Sith-like in the Camarilla or in vampire culture in general. The sheriff, if we find Key, that could be really cool because that could maybe grant us a boon. Maybe, having the sheriff there would be good. But then we also have Jordan, who's the closest person we have to a true ally, and that's something that we need right now. Our allies. So, true allies are hard to find. So I'll tell you what, we're going to go with Jordan. I'm sure the sheriff can take care of himself. Need to find Jordan. She's the closest person I have to a true ally in the city. It takes several minutes of digging, but you finally discover Jordan trapped beneath a fallen support beam. She gasps in pain, reaching out as you shift a heavy piece of hot metal to the side with a monumental heave. "Knew you'd come," she says, but you can see in her frightened eyes that she was sure of no such thing. "We had Ward on the run. He was sure we had him." Is that when he sent the explosives off? Jordan nods, wincing. Portions of her neck are covered in a fine char, which you know from personal experience will take several nights to mend. We need to get you out of here, you say urgently, pulling her up to her feet. You're in no shape to put up a fight. Don't worry, Jordan says, shaking her leg, grimacing as something pops back into place with a wet crunch. This isn't where my story ends. You wrap an arm around her shoulder and support her weight as you weave your way through a labyrinth of rubble. Starting to wonder, she mumbles, lost in thought for a moment. I didn't see the blast coming. What else could I have missed? She sucks air between her teeth sharply before pushing you away from her. You stumble to the ground, caught off guard by the unexpected shove, more injured by the unexplained slight than any physical pain. One of Ward's sentries steps out from behind a snaggletooth column and fires through the air where you were less than a second ago, and you can hear the bullet chip the concrete foundation behind you. Above, Jordan replies to the crack of gunfire calmly, in a disturbing monotone voice that you've heard once before. Drop your weapon. A brief moment's hesitation, and the man does as he's commanded. The gun clatters to the ground. Sit. The mortal sits. The mortal does so immediately. Hey, some dude. No matter how many times you see such mental abilities in practice, it never becomes any less awe-inspiring. Jordan hunkers down next to the man on bent knees, weight resting on her toes. She places her index finger and thumbs along the length of the mortal's forehead and speaks softly enough that you can't quite make out what she's saying. The man shivers and then looks up at Jordan warily before grimacing in disgust and gets to his feet. You can tell by looking him in the eye that Jordan has rewritten his memories. No monsters. No vampires. Just people killing people. I can't believe they left me here to die, the man says in a thick French-Canadian accent. My apologies to any French-Canadians. Spitting on the floor with a snarl as he checks the readiness of his weapons. A sharp knife glimmers on the ground below him where he might have dropped it during Jordan's mental manipulation. If you hadn't saved me, I might have... He reaches out to shake your hand. Thank you. Hi, Vito. I shake his hand like nothing is wrong and let him go. Asking questions might ruin Jordan's work, which is true. You take the mercenary's hand. It's slick and gritty with perspiration and powdered concrete dust. He shrinks back when he feels your deformed and twisted fingers. Curse of the Nosferatu. Damn, he exclaims. Did you get caught in the blast or something? I usually wouldn't say anything, but damn. It's okay, you say. I get that a lot. Sorry for mentioning it, he says. No offense meant. It's all good, you say. Best of luck to the two of you, he says, and you can tell he's sincere. He turns and sprints off into the night, not looking back. You navigate the crumbled walls and beams, exhaling a sigh of relief when you finally exit the factory. Key and Luca are arguing over a kneeling prisoner who's badly wounded and bound tightly. Behind them, you see Bichard and the others. Many are singed or limping, but none of them have met final death. Key gives you an appraising look. Looks like you're tougher than I thought, Silas. Ward hit you like a damn truck. It's good to see you too, Sheriff. Key pushes the prisoner to get him moving. We need to go, he says, his calm cracking under pressure as he looks around furtively. Eden can only keep the police away for so long. If we get caught, we'll be wishing that maniac had finished us off in the warehouse. Your exhausted party picks themselves up and limps toward the bridge leading back into Ottawa, your pace speeding up when the sirens blare from the north, over the border in Gatineau. Bichard nearly topples over as he lurches into a run, and two of his mercenaries lean down to help him. Luca looks over her shoulder, face painted with worry. Corliss doesn't have the reach that the prince did across the river, she says as you arrive at the edge of the construction site. If Arundel really was beckoned, we have a lot of slack to pick up. It's a good thing Corliss brought me back here when she did. She edges into a full run as the police sirens grow closer. It's too early to make assumptions, you grunt, your foot almost catching on a metal support bar as you cross the bridge at a run. We already have enough trouble with the anarchs. Rarely is the weight of power more keenly felt than in the event of a sudden absence. The bedrock of Ottawa's Camarilla society had been patiently chipped away by 100 knives, each skillfully wielded by those kindred whose day-spawned dreams bloomed ripe with a hunger for ascension, eternally waiting just out of reach. But they could wait. Undeath, after all, conferred a distinct advantage over the fleeting ambitions of humanity. And now it seemed their long nights of plotting were about to pay off. 4 nights ago, Ottawa's prince had simply disappeared, abandoning engagements which he had always routinely met with extreme punctuality. What was first seen as an unusual political slight began a concern on the second night of missed appearances, and by the third and fourth, unrest within the community was all but inevitable. As the prince's seneschal, your sire Eden Corliss now faces the full weight of responsibility, and powerful kindred have already expressed doubts about her ability to handle the pressure, even before Arundel's vanishing act. Of course, if she manages to impress them, she may rise to the office of prince herself. Despite what some might think, the title has always been gender neutral. It's nearly dawn when you arrive back in your haven, exhausted from the night's events. Your home is a rather exclusive piece of underground real estate with access to the local sewers, essential for the Nosferatu on the go. You throw open the carved wooden doors, pleased to find Gerard waiting for you attentively, his face creased with worry. He's dressed as befits his station, a well-tailored suit not quite ostentatious enough as to feel completely out of place on the average Ottawa street, but sufficiently genteel if he were required to attend the larger kindred court. Your clothes are in tatters, he states dryly. Did your evening not go as planned? When you don't immediately respond, he continues. Unfortunately, I've recently acquired a new vessel for you. He's waiting in the guest room should you have need of him. Whereas many kindred of your standing employ more than one retainer to do their bidding, you've been fortunate enough with Gerard's skill set that the idea of acquiring a second servant rarely enters your mind. As with many personal attendants, Gerard is a ghoul, a mortal who's been granted a taste of your own blood in exchange for unnatural strength and abilities. These powers come at the price of much of their free will. Ghouls become addicted to their master or mistress's blood, and withdrawal symptoms can be quite cruel. So why have only one when they make such devoted servants? Well, each ghoul requires maintenance, a regular feeding of your own precious vitae to maintain their agelessness and enhanced strength, and you have little wish to be so burdened with the additional upkeep wherein one superior servant will do nicely. Universally adapted to your needs, your ghoul also excels in one area in particular. Gerard was once a soldier for a major crime syndicate. He may be my servant now, but he still has contacts in the underworld. Financial assistant. I just like him being like a super butler. His attention to detail is almost uncanny. Oh, looks like, you guys actually can't see that on the, Wait, hold on one sec, guys. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Let me go into the menu and make the text smaller. Okay. Okay. You guys can't see the decisions here, but I'll go ahead and fix that before the next stream. I apologize about that. So we have a choice between Gerard being a soldier for a major crime syndicate, a financial assistant for one of the sire's companies, or a butler for one of the wealthiest families north of the US border. So we're going to go with that one. Gerard has never held back by anything as pedestrian as a moral compass. Before entering your employ, he worked as an enforcer for a local crime syndicate. Calm, cool, and professional. Huh. Okay. It looks like we're going with the crime syndicate one. But I had gone for the butler. Make this bigger again. Okay, I guess he's a enforcer then. Calm, cool, and professional. When the syndicate chose to attack one of Prince Arendel's companies, he ordered the organization wiped out, but saved their most useful men and women for his own use, granting you one of your choosing. Gerard had been the obvious pick, and he reacted well to the gift of agelessness, exchanging loyalty to money for loyalty to the blood. You discard your clothes and Gerard collects them gingerly, his nose wrinkling at the state of their disrepair. "Well, these won't be much use to you anymore," he says. I'll see about replacing them." "That'd be good, Gerard, thank you." "If I may be so bold, sir," Gerard asked with an unusual degree of trepidation in his voice, "has Prince Arundel resurfaced yet? I've heard rumors among the servants. They believe he's left the city." How should I react to him? "We don't know yet," I admit. "I'll be speaking with Corliss about it tomorrow once I've had time to rest." "Well, that was unexpectedly candid of you, sir," Gerard says. "I appreciate it. The greater my knowledge, the better I'll be able to serve." He inclines his head with respect. "Will that be all for today?" "Just about," you say, weariness enveloping you as the outside world grows closer to dawn. "I'll be needed at Corliss's offices tomorrow, and I may be gone for most of the night. I have a job for you in the meantime." I like that first option a lot. "I'd like you to research the construction site at Chandier Crossing. Let me know if any known kindred have ties to it." "Of course, sir. I'll get on it right away and hopefully have something helpful by the time you're done with your sire tomorrow night." Gerard finally leaves... Or 3? Gerard finally leaves you in peace, and you make your way to your bedchamber, eager to put the disastrous night behind you. It surprises you how easily you fell back into the pattern of violence from your fledgling days. But now you have the time to reflect. Your entire body shudders and you feel weak in the knees. Unlife in the upper crust of Ottawa's Camarilla society is rarely dull and is filled with very real dangers. But those are attacks of a political nature, and to fall in a battle of wits rarely leads to a violent and bloody death, although it's certainly known to happen. Tonight you faced final death on more than one occasion, and the resulting flood of memories from your mortal life brought back a heavy weight of long repressed guilt. Fear of dying is a persistent instinct in both mortals and vampires alike. Even decades after your first death, you're surprised to still feel the faux spike of adrenaline and gnawing fear of the grave. Agelessness, as you quickly learned upon your embrace, can be stripped violently away, much the same as it's granted. Left to their own devices, the vampire's unlife could extend indefinitely, but the undead eventually desire purpose. True to the spirit of your damned nature, this desire manifests in the form of deadly politics, activism, or violence. For years now, the latter of these has been the furthest thing from your thoughts. But thanks to Corliss's prompting and Robert Ward's strangely personal attack, you're once again reminded that you are an inherently violent creature, and the thought both repulses and intrigues you, although not in equal measures. It's not the nature of my own feelings that matters at the moment. What's important is for me to understand why Corliss wanted me there so I can leverage it if I ever need to. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm narrating it. I assume that this is also in Silas's voice, but when he talks, because of the Nosferatu curse, he has to talk in that gruff voice, so that's kind of what I'm going for here. A delicate squeaking near your foot intrudes on your thoughts, and you gaze down to find your rodent companion, Bleck. He'd been absent earlier tonight, and you hadn't pressed the bond, preferring to leave him here rather than risk losing him in the Anarch conflict. In retrospect, you're certain Bleck would have been useful in scouting the territory and revealing the mercenaries lying in wait. You silently curse yourself for a fool. You'll need to treat future conflicts more seriously. You pick him up, idly stroking his gray fur until he's had enough and bounds from your hand, chittering with satisfaction. You've put it off for too long. Eventually you'll need to decide whether he's a friend or simply a tool to be used, but you've had your fill of difficult decisions for now. You approach your bedchamber with relief, all other details flying from your burdened mind as you focus on renewing your strength by sleeping the day away. Oh, I sleep on a plush mattress in a lavish bedroom, the bed itself hemmed in by luxurious blackout curtains. What good is an ageless unlife if you can't lead it in style? You close the curtains and sink into the mattress with a deep sigh, gazing up at the canopy as you settle in to sleep. An image floats before you of the mortal you attacked tonight in a rage of hunger. In your blood-starved mind, you'd been certain that there was someone from your past, that they were someone from your past before the embrace. A lover, perhaps, although you can no longer recall the particulars. What you can remember is the intense feeling of wrongness you'd felt. Like there was a secret locked within your mind, repressed and nagging from behind a wall of repressed memory. You close your eyes and images flood back in quick flashes before solidifying into a scene you'd visited often, but never remembered in your waking hours. A lost memory, stolen from your cold and long-dead mind, but it's resurfacing more frequently now, as if something has shaken it loose to rattle around in your head like a specter. You've been chosen by your sire because your mortal abilities fit with her ideals for the Nosferatu clan. The dead have no need of mortal memories, but without some anchor to your past, will your humanity be gone forever? The vision is as vivid as it always is, and for fleeting seconds you're confused as to why you're so surprised. You've always been here. This is who you are. In life, before you were chosen by Corliss to join Clan Nosferatu, you were... a brilliant hacker dedicated to the freedom of information and maybe a little mischief on the side. An underground boxer, none could withstand the fury and tenacity you brought to the ring. An actor, adept at stagecraft and convincing an audience that I could be anyone at all but myself. So a lot of Nosferatu, what they like to do is they like to find people who are vain or people who have backgrounds that are dependent on their looks or, you know, their kind of aura, and then embracing them. And it's a sick joke, but sometimes it can breed very, very strong personalities in the clan. So, I mean, the hacker can definitely work because of the fall of Shreknet. Intelligence, manipulation, and wits. Ooh. This is a good one. Do I want to... Intelligence, manipulation, and wits, or dexterity, charisma, and composure? You know what? We're gonna do the actor. That's the first thing that like popped into my mind, is we should go with that. You remember now. You remember everything. Your life, your death, your embrace. No, that's not right at all. The scent of blood, oblivion flooding over your senses like a cool wave, an entirely unfamiliar set of eyes staring back as the gift of undeath takes you. Dead eyes glazing over as they watch you rise. The disturbing image of your past is replaced by a more comforting one. Your sire hovering over you as she brought you back from the brink. You remember the smile on her blood-smeared face, light from above casting a radiant halo around her head. In that singular moment, her Nosferatu disfigurements didn't matter. She was the most beautiful thing you had ever seen. And you knew with unerring certainty that each night of your continued agelessness was a gift that she had seen fit to bestow upon you. All right, guys. So that was chapter 1. Wow, that was a great first impression. I like that a lot. And I assume that a lot of our choices also affected our stats. And we can go ahead and look at the stats at the beginning of the next stream to see kind of what happened. But I like the idea of playing playing kind of a social creature, which is something that I haven't really done in these games before. I'm very curious to see how the story is going to continue. And these are longer chapters than what I've seen from like Blood Hunt and Night Road too. So I think this may be definitely a kind of a marathon for my throat as I do Nosferatu voices. But I'm looking forward to that challenge, and hope you guys are looking forward to watching that challenge. But we'll go ahead and pick up chapter 2 in the next stream. Now, if you guys haven't followed the Twitch channel, please do so. I try and stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays with random times in between. And if you're watching the replay of this on YouTube, I have a link to the Twitch channel in the description below, as well as a link to the Steam page for Parliament of Knives, as if you would like to go ahead and check out the game for yourself. And I also have a link to my Extra Life page where I'm raising money for my local children's hospital via the awesome Extra Life charity. So please check out those links if you feel so inclined. Like, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill there. And we will see you next time. Later days, everyone.